Hey Mistwood fans, it's me, S.R. Mowry, and welcome to the Mistwood Publishing Book Club. Today we'll be looking at my book, The Veil of Stars, Chapter 20, A Day of Mourning. This is going to be a shorter video because there's not a whole lot to go through. It's a shorter but very impactful chapter. Essentially, we have the first chunk, which is Is kind of finishing out his plan for, defending Vidar from the coming heroes. And then we also have and then we also have the second half where we lose one of our companions in a fight. We have our first real death. And so with the Is part, the first chunk, it's pretty grisly. He has to sacrifice family to get this creature to be summoned. And so it is another scene that's pretty grisly. But hopefully you're able to make it through that. And then the second part, which is again really the meat of it, they are ambushed by Hydra, which are pretty formidable foes. And Elene, we've been on his journey where he started out, he was supposed to be this great fighter from, the Elven school of basically sword fighting. He was like graduate, top of his class. And then we found out that, well, he doesn't really have courage in battle, and he kind of is crippled by his fear, and so he doesn't actually fight very well. And now then he, reclaims his courage when Ruth is fighting DeFlorgak, and now, that courage, now that he's had his victory, we see ultimately where that lands him. It's like I mentioned earlier in the book club, there was a movie called K-19 that kind of influenced the character, where there's this guy that, he's leaving to go serve on this submarine, and he, you see that he has a girlfriend or a new wife, and because of that, he's afraid to basically do his job in the submarine, which would result in his death, and so people die because of his cowardice, and then at the end, he ends up finding his courage and giving his life despite all that, and that's essentially the same thing that's happened to Elene. His worst fear has come true, but he did find his courage, and it's not meant to be happy. It's meant to just kind of be kind of a note that sometimes our worst fears do happen, and I think ultimately, I don't think Elene regrets what he did because it saved the lives of his friends. And that's kind of the arc of the character, how he grows, is that he becomes a real soldier. He does what he has to do. In a sense, he's become a real man. And so he has a very full arc. Unfortunately, it doesn't end very well for him, as it can't for every character. And so he is the first of several characters that will not make it to the end of the book. And so that is meant to be kind of an emotional moment, and it certainly will have an impact on the mental state of our characters moving forward. It's a bit of a shorter chapter, so there's not really much else to talk about other than, we've lost one of our heroes, and there will be more to come. Chapter 21, we'll get an update on Zach and Hale, and we'll kind of see how the companions handle the loss of one of their friends, one of their allies. And I do really, there's a moment in this chapter that I absolutely love. It's when Talia is running on the log and like somersaults. That was a moment where when I wrote it I was like, oh my goodness, this is satisfying. I kind of consider it the moment where Talia starts to reach her full potential. Begins to reach her full potential. And you'll notice after reading Saga 2 that this is where certain symptoms which lead into her arc in Saga 2 of where does her magic actually come from. You can see some hints of it in here. And it's a cool moment, and you don't really realize how significant it is, but it's really important for Saga 2. The the color of her magic in certain situations and the form it takes is very important, and you'll actually get some hints as to maybe where that comes from in the rest of Part 3. But that's all I'll say for this week. Have a wonderful week, and stay classy.